everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time in the month of February talking about superlatives. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about the best and worst of the cards in the game, which is what we're doing this month.
For the whole month.
For the whole month. Well, for a whole month, we're doing two things. We're talking about the best and worst, and we're thanking our patrons.
We are thanking our patrons. So, Ted, you know that I like to do something funny with the patrons every time I read the list. But before we get to reading the list, what I want to do is I want to invite anybody out there who wants to become a patron of the show to join us at patreon.com/cardtalk2018. And with that, you get to see what kind of reward tiers we have and what the swag levels are and things like that. And so we are super thankful for all our patrons. And this time we have 28 patrons, and I'm going to read them off in order of lifetime donation. So the people who've given the most money and then down to the people who have given probably the most recent patrons who have only given a couple of times. So, okay, you ready? Here we go. One breath. Let's see if I can do it. Ready? Thank you to Russ, Phil, Justin, Jason, Mike, Dominic, Matt, Joshua, James, Daniel, Vardane, Sean, Joseph, Joe, Carl, Robert, David, Lou, Kyle, Robert, Peter, Jake, Scott, Brandon, Niall, Edmund, Alex, and Reagan. Whew. I was a little nervous there because it's not alphabetical. Like I didn't know if I was going to make it either. And so I just really enjoy interacting with our patrons. Every once in a while I get a message from them. All these guys help us out so much, and it's just amazing. So thank you so much to everybody who gives to the show. And as we said in the intro, this month is a little bit different than our normal episodes. As Ted and Grant know, every February we do a extravaganza month where we release a whole bunch of shows. It started in 2019 when we did like a show a day for Sylvan February. And then last year we did Couples February. And now we're doing Superlatives, which is the best and the worst of the game. And so we have 12 shows, 3 for each sphere, and we're going to do it one sphere a week. So that's 3 shows a week. It's going to be crazy. And we've already talked about tactics, and we've already talked about leadership. And speaking of leadership, I want to just thank the community for their leadership in filling this out. There was 130 people filling out the survey. It was crazy at the number of people that filled it out. I was so thankful that happened. Ted was thankful. Grant, he was only moderately thankful because he has to record these shows at like 2 a.m. So, he's... But nonetheless, 130, everybody who filled out the survey gets entered to win a prize. So check the post wherever you're seeing this post, whether it's in Reddit or the Discord server or the Facebook group. The post will have the winner for each show. There'll be one winner a show. You get AP, you can get Card Talk swag. I even have a leftover set of custom tokens that we're giving away. So anyways.
Right. I've just got one thing to say.
What?
The only reason I'm able to do this is I've got the spirit to continue on.
The spirit.
Womp.
Womp, womp, womp. Well, let's get right into it because Grant let the cat out of the bag. The point is that we're doing these in order. I asked as one of my questions what everybody's favorite sphere was. So tactics was the least favorite, and then leadership was the second least favorite, or the next least, I don't know, whatever. The least favorite was tactics. Next on that list was leadership, and now we're getting into spirit, which a lot of people really seem to like. So, which is funny because spirit isn't a sphere that I play all that often. But Grant, before we get into talking about the spirit heroes, what do you feel? How do you feel about spirit?
On a whole, it's a good sphere. It is high questing. You got some really nice cancellation, whether that be treachery cancellation, like when revealed cancellation or shadow cancellation. Yeah, it's pretty much a solid sphere, even if you're just splashing it.
Yeah, I guess you can splash spirit pretty well. I think that's pretty good. I don't play spirit all that often. I don't know why. I don't know if it's soloable. I'm sure it's soloable, but I don't know. I'm never.
It's definitely
It's funny
being
because
built out to be a solo sphere now. Back when the game was first initiated, doing a solo spirit deck was very hard.
Rough, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. Like a lot of my decks use spirit, but whenever I think of what's a spirit deck, I don't like go to a deck that's like that I think of as being spirit. That said, Ted, what do you think about the spirit sphere?
As a whole, it's really great. It's a really strong sphere for defending against the shadow in general, because it has access to
What does that
a
mean?
lot of
Defending against the shadow.
Yeah, it is. I say it's the number one sphere for that.
Do you mean
'cause it
defending
has-
against the shadow effect, or like
No,
defending
I mean like
against
just
Sauron?
like the shadow of Sauron in
Okay.
general.
Okay, that's so funny that you say it that way.
Because you have the core cards. You have a haste to will. Wow,
It's-
hasty stroke,
Hasty stroke,
will.
hasty will, and
Also-
test of stroke.
test of will.
Test of stroke is in a whole different
If you're having
game,
a stroke, is what you say.
right?
And it's got the things that another way for you to lose is to threat out. It's got threat reduction. It's the primary sphere for threat reduction effects. So it has a lot of these things to protect the wielder, which is what I like about it. It's got strong defensive heroes, strong questing heroes, very utility allies. It is wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, and I guess arguably it has some of the most powerful cards in the game. I know that you just said that, but like Test of Will. We've had Caleb on the show a million times. Feels like maybe 1,000,001, maybe 999,999. But every time he comes on the show, he talks about how Test of Will would be a whole different card if it were designed now, because it just changes how the game goes, and that's frustrating for him. For anybody who doesn't know or is new to the game, Caleb Grace is the lead designer of the game, and he has come on the show. You can go back to some of our past episodes, and you can see Caleb talking about cards. The first time he came on the show, he talked about one of his favorite card in the card pool was Galadriel at the time, and there's a lore here or a spirit hero that I use all the time in my Slippery Sylvan deck, but I never think of my Slippery Sylvan deck as being a spirit deck. It's so funny.
Well, it's not. It's a Slippery Sylvan deck.
It's a Sylvan deck, right? That's what it is. Like Noldor deck. A Noldor deck probably runs 2 spirit heroes, but it's not a spirit deck. It's a Noldor deck, right? Like,
Yeah, that's where people seem to get confused. They say what deck you run based on the heroes, but that's not generally the case. You have a Hobbit deck. You may have an all Hobbit lineup of Spirit Hobbits. That's still a Hobbit deck. It just may run Spirit heroes.
right.
There is different. It's how you view your deck for what it does.
That's right.
I generally don't define a deck by what the hero compilation is. It's about what that deck does.
Right. And I think that, I guess a lot of us do that. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. One of the things that I've learned from this survey after the whole community is given out is that, like, what I think is good is not necessarily or things that I think is my my favorite is not what the community thinks is the favorite.
Yeah.
So, but as we get kicked off this week, let's talk a little bit about heroes. So I always ask you guys, do you want to do favorite or best? And then you guys always say favorite first. So do you want to stick with that and do favorites?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I want to say no. I want to do best this week.
Oh, fight it out.
Just because Ted wants to do favorites.
Okay, so we'll do best because we have to kowtow to Grant, who is graciously staying up real late tonight to record. So there's 4 best heroes in the Spirit Sphere according to the survey. Of course, there was the respondents. Of course, there was a bunch more than that, but there was 4 that by far and away made the list. So should we do this Family Feud style?
Ready to go.
Okay, so who's first on Family Feud? Do we have the Thompson family or the Bannock family?
Seems I picked to do best. Ted can go first.
Oh, little gracious host over there.
He's gonna. Okay, that's part of the strategy. He thinks I'm gonna miss it. And he's gonna steal.
He is gonna steal. Okay, so there was 130 people surveyed. Top 4 answers are on the board. What is the best? What is the best spirit hero in the game?
You should listen back to our Fatty episode where we had you guys had John on. Actually, it was prior to me joining the show, but still a great episode when John joined from Cardboard and Ranks.
Yeah. I was a little upset. John, I always call John the golden voice of the show, and like he does that. And then the Nazgul got into that recording, so it was like I was frustrated that happened. So John, if you're listening, sorry about that. Maybe we'll have you on again to talk about Nightmare Fatty. But
all right,
Ted,
I would say best far and away is Arwen.
That's number 2 on the board. Ding 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 ding.
Okay, all right.
With 26.
All right. Then Spirit Glorfindel.
That's the number 1 answer on the board. 49 respondents said Spirit Glorfindel. Good job. So that's 75 points you have right now.
Okay.
And the number 3 and the number 4 answer are still up there, Ted. This is my game show voice if you're not familiar with it. Galadriel, number 4 on the list. We are now only missing number 3, Ted.
Okay, and this one's kind of a toss-up.
For the clean sweep. For the clean sweep.
I'm going to go with Círdan. Círdan the Shipwright.
Círdan the Shipwright holds a superlative in and of itself. Círdan the Shipwright is the is the hero that has the most characters in his name. So that's an
interesting fact.
Yeah, that's just something that I know. Círdan the Shipwright. So, Grant, for the steal, you can take away Ted's 80 points that he has. Wait. Wow, he's got 90 points.
Eowyn?
Eowyn! Yes! Ding, 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 ding. For the steal. Eowyn, 17 points. So that's really good. I mean, there's... I think that those are pretty good. I'm surprised that Círdan didn't make the list. Let me go to the results and see,
because Eowyn, if people, maybe there are some people that just don't have Círdan that took the survey. Eowyn is a core set hero, so and she is very good. And I thought they all would make it. I thought all the 4 willpower ones would be in the running, the 4 willpower heroes, and then Arwen and Glorfindel. Right.
Círdan was down on the list. He was number 4. He wasn't number 4. He only had 4 votes. So it's funny because as I look at the list of other people, like Eleanor, she's a pretty good, solid, reliable core set hero, right? Yeah. Low threat and cancels, when revealed on a treachery. Yeah. That's pretty good. but there's not really much else. There's a vote for Caldara. Is that unheard of?
You know what? No, because she was so good to the point where she had to get Narada and get nerfed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Pippin on the list?
Pippin's not on this list. Pippin, people made jokes on the other list, but
and those heroes are not surprising for being the best because they have stellar abilities and their willpower is high. And for
Right.
heroes, that's really important because they start the game. You can start the game having Eowyn at 4. I mean, that's almost like having 2 heroes and a lot of other spears because all their willpower is going to be 2.
Right, of course. Yep. So, and actually, Grant, you may be able to verify this. I think when we had C-Stan on the show, he said that he thought that Arwen at the time, now this was 3 years ago, didn't he say that Arwen was probably the most powerful hero in the game?
I cannot confirm or deny that because it's been so long since that episode.
Or maybe
happened.
He said it's one of his most favorite heroes. I mean, that stands to reason.
I think it's on his list of favorite heroes. Yeah,
because we were talking about Iristor, and he was like, of course, C-Stan talked about Iristor, and like he's the expert on Iristor and all the things that happens. But I think at the very end, he said that Arwen would get the one. So
Her ability is strong.
yeah,
To just generate resources.
Yeah.
The ability
on herself or many other targets in the game.
Yeah. So before we do the favorite ones, maybe I'll ask you guys, what's your guys' favorite spirit hero? Ted, who's your favorite spirit hero?
That is a great question. And I think as far as fun spirit heroes to play, I would think it's going to be actually probably your favorite, which is going to be Dane Ironfoot.
Dine made the list, so I was really happy to see that Dine, he got like 1 or 2 votes, but so he didn't really make the list, but I was happy to see. Spirit Dine is just a ton of fun to play in that deck.
Right, yeah, he goes into a couple different, but like we also have Baragons who have 2 strong defenders in the spirit sphere as far as heroes go, and Dane is one of those, and his ability is strong. Turn 1, you can have 6 defense.
Yeah,
and
that's
almost every single, like almost guaranteed with the exception of one scenario.
Right. That's okay. Yeah. Grant, who would you consider one of your favorite spirit heroes?
Well, I've got 3 at the top of me list currently.
What do you
I
got?
have Dunhia, I
Right.
have Fastred, and I have Merry.
Yeah, Mary. I'll let you talk in a second, but when you said Mary, when you brought up, I remember playing with Ted, and I've always passed over Spirit Mary for some reason, even though I love hobbits. And then I started playing Spirit Mary, and I love him. I love Spirit Mary. So
does he make you merry?
He does. He makes me merry, happy, and bright. So, but Ted, Grant, what were the reasons for the other stuff?
Well, Dunhia has always had a nice place in my card pool. He was in one of the first decks I built because that ability to attack into the staging area and get +1 attack always seemed to be a powerful effect. And currently, I think there's only 3, maybe 4 characters that can attack into the staging area at different points. And Dunhia's among the finest of them.
Yeah.
And Fastred just enables Dunhia. You get to reduce your threat by 2 and bounce that enemy back to the staging area after he defends an attack. I mean, it is limit once per phase, so if you've got 2 or 3 enemies engaged with you, you can't put all of them back to the staging area. But even if if you've got 1 engaged it's still reducing your threat by 2, and you get to send the enemy back. So
Right.
it's always nice to see. And then Dunhia takes out that enemy.
Yeah, and I feel like that attacking the staging area thing, that done here duck shoot. You've been to your credit, you've been talking about it for a long time, but now I'm hearing a lot more in the community about attacking the staging area, and like Cardboard of the Rings has been talking about it, and I think I saw a couple of posts about attacking the staging area. Like I feel like there's like a mini resurgence of using done here and being able to do those things. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking at reworking the Dunhia duck shoot to incorporate some of the new cards, likes of Fourth of Three Hunters, because my Dunhia duck shoot deck has only got cards from up to Flame of the West, I believe it is, which there's been like several
Well, didn't
boxes that
Fastard come out in
the Crossings of Poros.
Poros, right? Was that
So
before or after Flame of the West?
I think.
Anyway,
was,
whatever. But the point
yeah,
is yes, there's
I don't
still two or three more cycles to worry about.
yeah, and I don't think I've upgraded the deck since.
Right.
So I think I might be looking at my deck and tweaking it to see if I can make it stronger.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's some options for you to do it. You know, there's some attachments that you could use and things like that probably
definitely.
Yeah.
And obviously with the contracts likes of Fourth of 300, as it makes it so much cheaper to get those attachments on when you're only running with one tactics hero.
Even a Council of the Wise deck may be a lot of fun for that. That'd be good.
Yeah, that could work as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do.
For a long time, that deck was your favorite. And so now that we've talked about your favorite deck, let's talk about the community's favorite heroes. And Ted, you've said in previous episodes, I think, that there's probably a lot of overlap. So if you had to guess, here, what is the community's favorite spirit hero?
Probably also Arwen.
It is not, believe it or not.
Ooh.
Arwen is actually 5th on the list.
For favorite? Okay. All right.
Yeah, for favorite.
I'll take a stab. I'm gonna say Baragon.
Baragon's 6th on the list. So you got 5th and 6th, but you didn't get 1st. Oh, Grant, do you want to take a shot at who's 1st on the list of favorites?
Dane?
Dane is not on the list.
Okay. And I'll give one more shot at saying Eowyn.
Eowyn is number 1. A lot of fun. A lot of favorite. And again, I think that some of it may be because we had several people who were just starting out, which we totally appreciate, right?
Oh, definitely.
Eowyn, once you crack that core set and you get Eowyn and you realize just how strong she is. And Ted, I know that you always espouse, and talk about how awesome it is to do like post-staging quest willpower modification. And that's Eowyn and Faramir are the 2 staples of the core set that do that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And shielding gets better the more players you have in the game. And, how many times has anybody played a game and it's like, oh man, we're 1 short of clearing the active location.
Who's got a card? I'll ditch a card.
Who's got a card?
I know that's everybody in the world knows I can ditch a card. Like that's exactly the phrase I use. I'll ditch a card. I'll ditch a card.
Yeah.
Right.
Like so instead of location stacking up, yeah, it's 100% worth a card.
Absolutely. So others on the list, again, there's a lot of overlap, but Galadriel was number 2, which I would have put her as one of my favorites. I would put Glorfindel was number 3 and Círdan was number 4. So Círdan made the list of favorites, but didn't make the list of
he
best.
He would be higher on that list.
Yeah, I know that,
but only by
Círdan.
1 tier.
Yeah, you use Círdan often. I play with you, and you seem to put decks. Maybe it's always just the same deck, but I don't know. You seem to always put a Círdan deck on the table.
Well, usually heroes that can wield rings of power tend to be strong in their own right.
Right.
And Círdan is one of those characters, and that's we had an episode on that too, or at least again that was before my time, but we had a guest for the Círdan episode.
Right.
With Forster, right?
Yeah, Joseph Forster came on and talked about it. And actually, it's really funny because you know how you get stuck in like that the Gondorian shield has to go on Barragond, or it was funny. It wasn't until he came on the show early on this is how like narrow-minded I am when I'm deck. I still do this. Like if I can't pull out Gandalf with a sneak attack, I don't play either of them, right? Like that's just it's just so stupid. And he goes, Light of Valinor goes really well on Círdan.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it goes on Glorfindel. And he was like, yeah, but the second best target is probably Círdan. And I'm like, but it goes on Glorfindel. You cannot put it on any, of course you can put it on Círdan. I get that. But it was just so funny that was like what I was, it just so like single-minded about it.
Yeah. So he pointed out, I remember from that episode, from listening to it, a lot of great things, and his card cycle of being able to draw 2 and get you the card you need. Like with him, it's going to be like, okay, you're going to draw 2 really good cards, probably, right? You could draw your Test of Will and a Northern Tracker, right? But it's like, which one of those things are you in need of? Like, do you need that tracker, or are you worried about really nasty treachery cards that you need to be able to cancel this turn?
And then it just sucks if you need both.
Well, right. But Spirit's got answers to that, right? Like the Spirit's
Dwarven Tomb, right?
Sylvan Harp, Dwarven Tomb Reforged.
Right.
There's a ton of recursion.
Right. Will of the West, even if you're desperate, just whatever.
And a lot of there's cards now that you can play from your discard pile.
Glorfindel.
I like Glorfindel, Elven Light, Lords of Noldor.
Right.
And that's really awesome for him because you're like, okay, the choice is made for you.
Right. Exactly. It's pretty crazy. So I mean those are the favorites, and those are the best. And so one of the things that I wanted to do, and this is going to kind of take a hard right here, but I think it's important that as we honor the community and we put this out here and we ask people their opinions, one of the things that I wanted to do also was highlight how people get their information about the game. Okay, so of course there's Card Talk podcast. That's phenomenal. But, and I don't think that I should go through the list and rank them. I think that that's doing a disservice to those people who are, doing those things.
Of community resources.
But I will say that there is one resource by far and away that was better that everybody said that they used. Do you guys know what resource that was?
Hall of
Beorn. So kudos to Dan over at Hall of Beorn for getting on that so quickly and being so amazingly up to date and amazing at Hall of Beorn. All the podcasts use it right when I have up Hall of Beorn. I'm sure Ted and Grant, you guys have up Hall of Beorn. When Cardboard of the Rings does their show, they have up Hall of Beorn. Like, he's like the meta, right? Like if we are the meta Card Talk and Cardboard of the Rings and all the other podcasts, he's even more meta than that because he's behind all of that. So, I think that
I have several tabs open of Hall of Beorn.
When I'm editing it,
when we do this show,
when I'm editing an episode, I have at least 2 tabs up Hall of Beorn to get stuff. So
yeah. Definitely check that out. If you haven't used it, it's hallofbeorn.com.
Yeah. So what I'll say is, where do you guys get? And Grant, you and I, we used to do, and Ted, I think you came in at the tail end. We used to do campfire tales, community tales, where we used to go around and talk about all the different resources. But Grant, what's where do you go to get your information about the game?
Honestly, I generally use I don't use many community resources where blogs and like community resources where like that are concerned. Vision of the Plantier and all that are great resources. I just don't generally have time to use them. If I'm looking for something on a specific quest, I go to the LCG Quest Companion.
Great resource.
Uh,
Great resource. Yeah,
yeah,
Banania is in charge of that. So
and I also obviously I use Hall of Beyond a lot, and then I use Rings DB if I'm
I
building a
know.
deck.
And those were all mentioned in our um, in our survey. Ted, if you're gonna, what are your community resources that you use? Here, give a shout out to those.
Yeah, I think we named definitely the most common ones. Rings to be in Hall Bjorn, I think by far and away. So tremendous shout out to everybody who creates and maintains those.
Right.
For everybody else. Alongside, I'm going to count OCTGN as a community resource also. It doesn't actually give you information about the game, but it's a platform in which to play the game and connect with people. So I think that is used, which we discussed on, was it our tactics series where we talked about how people play digitally versus
and everybody was shocked. It was like only 4% play exclusively digitally. Everybody else either plays live or some combination of live, I think. Yeah, I mean, this category is a little near and dear to my heart because, you guys know, like, we put a lot of work and a lot of effort into this, and we do it as a labor of love, and we don't ever need something. So we never want anything or need anything in return necessarily. We're just always so blessed when we have patrons that feel like they want to give a couple of bucks a month. And I'm pretty sure that most of these other resources have a Patreon too, that you can pick and choose where you want to do. And that's one of the things about this community is that, I never feel like we're in competition with any of these. I feel like this is just, we're all working together in concert, like the music of the Ainur here, to create just this amazing community. Like, I don't ever have it out for any of the Cardboard of the Rings guys. I actually really love those guys, and I throw money to them every month as a support because I want to support what they do. I support Vision of the Palantir. I support Three's Company. Like, I support those guys because I like what they do. So, and so I think it's important to recognize the efforts that people make to continue to maintain interest in the community. And it doesn't have to be Card Talk. We're a slice of the community. We're not the community. Okay. And right. And so what I wanted to say is that, there's a couple other resources that people mentioned that I think is important to mention. So, of course, Ian Martin's Tales from the Cards, people talk about all the time. So that was there. And that hasn't been mentioned on our show in a while, but we had Ian on the show, and Ian, he has his blogs, Tales from the Cards, and he has a great buying guide up on his show. He's got it, or on his site. A couple other things again in terms of podcasts. Three's Company, our friend Joseph Forster with Ryan Kelly and Liam Wood, they put together Three's Company podcast. Of course, Cardboard of the Rings, and there's a new podcast that I highly recommend called Late of the Rings. They about a year ago they started the whole game over again, and they're just starting from the beginning. And I think the last episode was Journey to Roscoble. So that was good. And a couple of written or video written, I don't know, a couple lesser known things that I think is Darkling Door. That's still up and active, I think. And I think that's run by our buddy Arthur Rao. I think. And then the Warden of Arnor. He's still doing his progression series. So if you want to be a part of this community, the there's a lot of opportunity for you to listen and just take it in whatever way that you want, whether it's written, whether it's video, whether it's podcast. There's just so many amazing resources out there, and I thought that it wouldn't be right to honor the game if we didn't honor the community and all the hard work that the creators do to keep the community going.
Yeah,
So-
and there's just one more resource that I'd like to point out.
Sure.
The White Tower blog, run by Samuel
Our friend
Creed,
Sam,
aka Onitson.
yeah.
He's got a lot going on with experimental deck building, and then me and Samuel have put out the Ancient Mathams as a collaboration project between Card Talk and the White Tower blog, which is trying to upgrade some of the older cards and bring them into like up to scale with the power curve of like the newer cards. We've nerfed a few of the cards. Spoilers: Steward of Gondor got a nerf. If you want to check that out, look at his channel on YouTube as Onitson, or check out the White Tower blog on WordPress.
Right.
It's all there.
Ted, what about you, buddy? Don't you think it's important to honor all the creators out there that kind of underpin the community, right?
Oh, well, definitely. I got to give a shout out actually to the League of Cooperative Gaming, to Wandering Took, and that whole group of guys is another big contributor over there.
Maybe Big Foam Loaf and
definitely, yeah, Big Foam Loaf too. There's someone else too who I think does actually more work on the Marvel stuff.
yeah, I know who the name is.
Yeah, but yeah, the League of Cooperative Gaming server on the Discord channel. There's a whole behind the scenes like Council of the Wise, that kind of.
Oh, definitely, it's a big group of people that help Wandering Took and Big Foam Loaf, and obviously the Purple Wizard Joe keep everything going. And I think you're talking about Kennedy Hawk.
Kennedy Hawk. Yep, that's the guy.
Thank you. So they're working to, like create those events and create achievements and organize the community in that regard. And we kind of talked about that, I think, briefly on our End Comes episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the silver lining, is that these online events emerged from 2020, and I think it's something that's going to continue and be a great resource to connect people that play the game, especially people like Grant that are like overseas from the US.
Right.
Oh, definitely, and I look forward every couple of months as soon as I hear of an event going on in the League of Cooperative Gaming or anything else that's going on through either the League or the massive multiplayer server that's on Discord. I'm always excited to see if I can be a part of it, because it's so much fun to interact with the community, interact with players that I haven't necessarily played with before. It's always good fun.
Yeah. And the last thing that I just want to mention is if you're just catching this podcast and you haven't really joined any of the community and you want to know where we are, not We Card Talk, because you can just hit the subscribe button or the follow button, whatever it is. What I mean is where all the play is at. If you want to know where all the play is at, there's over 5,500 people on the subreddit. So if you go to r/LOTR LCG, there's 5,500 people, and Rittermark Lord is the moderator there. He was on the show. There's a Facebook group with over 4,000 people. That's crazy big. And Joseph Forster's,
a lot of great stuff there.
Yeah, a lot
including
of good
other
stuff.
people making these things too are posting like links and updates on the Facebook group.
Yep. and then Discord servers run by Cardboard of the Rings, and I think they all kind of share the responsibility. The Chad's doing stuff, and C-Stan does stuff there. I mean, they're all doing great stuff. So you guys get a chance to see exactly where everybody at.
Yeah, I'll point out a community resource that we're losing, actually, since we're talking about this.
I didn't want to bring it up, but Ted, go ahead.
I think we should. Yeah. So probably more on the Asmodee side than the Final FFG side. The Final Fantasy. Wow. Fantasy Flight. It's too much alliteration floating around in my mind. The forums for this card game, I think like they're just shutting down all forums, I think is like the order.
Right.
Includes the Lord of the Rings forums are being shut down. And they said, I think part of their formal reasoning was there are other resources that the communities utilize more, like the Facebook group and the Reddit, for example, for Lord of the Rings. So that is being discontinued.
Yeah, it's
which I think it was used. I think it's seen less and less use over time when these other platforms have emerged. Early on, they were very, very important for games as they came out. But new stuff seems to spring up, like a new game launches, and like people are like podcasts, forums, Reddit's, Facebook groups, everything pops up.
I mean, I think the forums would work better as more of a FAQ rather than as a place for people to discuss things, like for like the safe to find like specifics, rather than having to troll through like 50,000 responses.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for something in particular, like I say, I'll go to the quest companion, because generally speaking, if it's a keyword thing, it's got it already there in the quest companion. But if it's looking for like a specific example for triggers and what have you, then I think there needs to be something there for like that instance. I mean, when we played Hunt for the Dreadnought, it was like, well, if I use Grimbion's response, do you still have to trigger the pillage keyword? Came up in the Hunt for the Dreadnought, and it was like, well, I believe it does, because of the way it's worded, because it's obviously the pillage keyword says after the enemy attacks, and Grimbion's response is after the attack's been made.
Right.
So it's one of the it would be nice to have either a forum or a web page that has a lot of these instances for triggers and how it would work, just for a bit of clarification more than anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the importance. That's one of the importances of the community, and I think the broader importance is just to bring everybody together and
definitely
all the like-mindedness that we all have. And I've never once met a single bad person on any of the forums. There's the only troll that I ever remember seeing is the ones from Conflict at the Carrick. So
I thought Vardane was a troll.
He's a villain. There's a distinction.
Yeah, he's a good troll if he is a troll, because he's good trouble, good trouble he causes. So, well, guys, I think that's gonna cut off our show about the Spirit Hero Superlatives.
Yep.
So why don't we call it a day, and then why don't we come back again this week and talk about the Allies? Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I can't make it.
Okay. Wouldn't surprise me, Grant. Wouldn't surprise me. Okay, everybody, join us again as we talk about more superlatives in this month of February. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.